Trying to stop your strong emotions is slowing down your recovery. And today I want to teach you exactly what we can do differently so that you're not getting in the way of your own recovery. My name is Kimberly Quinlan. I'm an anxiety specialist. I help people all over the world manage their anxiety, not in the quick fix, cure you, get rid of your anxiety way. I tend to work more on long-term, sustainable shifts in mindset, changes in behaviors, engaging in the most effective skills and strategies so you can get back to your big, wonderful life that you've been dreaming about. Let's get going. Today, we're going to talk about why you need to stop trying to stop your strong emotions. So let's go. Okay, so the reason that this recently came up is that I was doing a Q&A on Instagram. And this is where I just say, ask me anything, let me know how I can help. And I was blown away in one day how many people asked a question in a way that basically alluded to the facts of how can I stop having this strong emotion? Or how can I get rid of it? How can I make it not be there? And this blew me away because this is a massive problem. This is getting in the way of their recovery. Their questions were skilled questions. It's just that there was a core component, an idea, an understanding that we needed to get to. So let me give you a couple of examples of these questions, and then I'm actually going to go into them. So one of the questions was how to not fear depersonalization. Another one was, do you have a good tip for not being sad about a recent date that I had that went terribly? Another question was, how do I not solve an intrusive thought without feeling guilt? Another question was, do you have any tips for doing exposure in public without feeling like a complete loser? Now, these are skilled, excellent questions. They're all talking about how can I get better? How can I get good strategies? But the problem is they're all basically saying, what can I do about this big emotion that I have? How can I do X without the emotion? And this is where I was like, oh, time out. We have to address this. Because if you're trying to do something so that you don't have an emotion, we're really getting in the way. Let me explain. So if there is a specific emotion that is very triggering for you, and you're doing everything you can not to feel that feeling, the problem with that mechanism is that you're basically not building mastery around this very normal human emotion. If you have a normal emotion like guilt, shame, sadness, anger, absolute disgust, anxiety, panic, these are what we could consider like uncomfortable emotions. And if they're uncomfortable for you and you're doing your best not to feel them, you're not building any mastery on those normal human emotions. We all have them. There's nothing wrong with them. They're not even particularly a problem. They're not here for us to quote unquote solve. What they're here for us to do is to learn how to navigate them. And if you're trying to do any behavior to avoid them instead of navigate them, you're going the wrong way. Now, I get it. Sometimes when we have these strong emotions, the emotion propels us to doing behaviors we don't want to do or that impact our recovery, right? So let's say if you have a lot of guilt, you might then find yourself doing more compulsions and you're trying not to do compulsions, right? Or let's say you have a feeling like anxiety and you tend to catastrophize when you're having anxiety. So you're trying to avoid the anxiety so you don't catastrophize. Again, there's skilled questions for that reason, except again, you're trying to bypass having an emotion so that you don't act a certain way, so you don't engage in behaviors a certain way. And that's always going to fail you. What we want to do is be able to commit to having every single one of the emotions. We are going to commit to having them, right? We're going to be disciplined in saying, yes, we want to have them all. And then we're going to practice having them over and over. And we're going to put in a ton of reps to be able to manage them well. We're not going to avoid the emotion so that we don't have this other uncomfortable sensation or we don't do these behaviors. It's not going to work. It's only going to create, maybe you don't do the behaviors, but you've built no mastery over the emotion that you're going to continue to have for the rest of your life. Okay, so let's talk about some examples of this. So the first question was, how can I not fear depersonalization or this other sensation, whatever the sensation? It could be, how could I not fear having a panic attack? How could I not fear uncertainty? How could I not fear going into a test or an interview? Again, the answer here is you have the fear and you take the fear with you. You have the anxiety and you move into the action, you move into the event or the circumstance that you have to do, and you allow the anxiety to be there. With each time, you will do some actions skillfully and some not. And then your job is to go, okay, I just went and had this depersonalization. What went well and what didn't go well? How willing was I to have the fear? How willing was I to have the depersonalization? What compulsions did I do? And scale back from there. But if you're starting to do this practice while committing to not having the emotion, again, it's not going to work. Here's another example. A good tip for not being sad about a recent day. My immediate response was, what's wrong with being sad? Sad sounds like the appropriate emotion. If you've had a date that didn't go well, or you didn't do as well at something that you thought, or you're struggling or somebody's suffering that you love, feeling sad is the appropriate emotion. And so we actually want to work on being gentle with ourselves while we feel sad. Now, some people say, no, but when I feel sad, I often slip into depression. And I'll say, okay, makes complete sense. But again, if you're avoiding feeling your feelings so that you don't feel depressed, you're going to have this avoidance to a normal feeling. And our real work is, how can we navigate sadness effectively without falling into depression? Or even if you do, again, not beating yourself up, not being guilty, not shaming yourself, but instead going, okay, where can I direct myself into this chain reaction so that when I have sadness, I don't move into I don't move into depression, right? So again, let me be really clear here. The goal isn't to avoid emotion. It's to practice having the emotion without hyper responding in ineffective ways. And to be honest, regulating yourself during an emotion is a piece of this. And I'll be talking more about this in future episodes. So this is where we really want to catch, again, our commitment to stopping normal human emotions, right? This is, again, where I said, there's nothing wrong with being sad. Go be sad. Do what you do when you feel sad. Right? But then be careful and aware of how that might start to turn into rumination and then depression or hopelessness and so forth. That's where you need to put the work in, not avoiding sadness. The next question was how not to solve an intrusive thought without feeling guilt. And I said to them, the goal to not solve an intrusive thought is so spectacular, right? It's so spectacular. But if you're trying not to solve something and you're trying to practice being uncertain, but you're not letting yourself feel the feelings about it, well, again, you're going to be doing some kind of like thought stopping or emotion stopping, which is, again, going to create a whole mental and cognitive mess in your mind, because we know the more we try to stop something, the more it comes. I would once again say, let the guilt be there and do nothing about it. Don't try and solve the guilt. Don't try and fix the guilt. Don't try and rationalize the guilt. Don't try and do anything except being an observer to it, noticing it, maybe even laughing and being like, okay, guilt's back. It's showing up. Maybe it's appropriate. Maybe it's not. We're not here to solve that either. We're just going to let it be there, but come back to the present moment. Be engaged in the thing that we want to be engaging in. Be, very laser focused at really tending with curiosity and openness to this exact present moment. Not about the past, not about the future, just this present moment, okay? We're going to let those strong emotions sort of burn off in our body, right? Sort of like I always think of a soda can, or if you poured a soda into a can, a glass, you would see the bubbles go up and up and up and up and up. And over several hours, eventually the bubbles run out, right? There's no more bubbles to come up. All of a sudden, what was carbonated water is now pretty still water. And in that case, it's burnt off. We want to do that with emotions too. We don't want to try and push the emotions down. If you get a glass of carbonated water and you're pushing the bubbles up, they're going to find ways to show up in around the hand and the fingers and all the things. And emotions are the same. So we don't want to try and stop them. We don't want to try and get rid of them. There's nothing wrong with you for having them, whether they're appropriate or not appropriate, right? Whether they're rational or irrational, it doesn't matter. What we want to do is be able to observe them rising and falling, be able to note, oh, okay, guilt's here, shame's here, anxiety's here, depression's here, sadness is here, and allow it to be there warmly and compassionately and respectfully, right? And tenderly, while you re-engage with what is effective and what is value-based for you, what lines up with your values and beliefs, what matters to you, what pushes the needle forward. I'm constantly thinking about what pushes the needle forward for me. Is it trying to stop this emotion, or is it me doing this thing that is beneficial to me and my well-being or my family or my marriage or my recovery? What pushes the needle forward? It's definitely not avoiding a feeling, because again, then you're afraid of a feeling and you've built no mastery. My goal in life is to be able to have any emotion known to humanity and ride them wisely and kindly. I want there to be no emotion that I'm not willing to have. That's my goal for my mental health. Where in my mental health am I trying to avoid or remove discomfort? Where am I trying to not feel and let myself feel it? Again, being very clear. That doesn't mean we perseverate on all the negativity. It doesn't mean we ruminate about negative, hopeless, helpless topics. We just observe them. The next question was tips for doing exposure in public without feeling like a complete loser. Here I would say, let yourself feel that way. We know it's not true. Like, complete loser is pretty judgmental, so that's not true. But the feeling of humiliation, the feeling of embarrassment, not a problem. Let's practice being embarrassed. Let's practice being humiliated. Again, they won't hurt you. They won't kill you. They won't impact you. And just because you feel these feelings doesn't make them true, doesn't make them facts. What we want to be able to do, again, is navigate these emotions, really regulate these emotions from the wisest place, from the most wise, rational, really logical, and kind perspective. I have some friends that I know, and this is another way I think about it, is I think about like, they tend to navigate, they stay really steady when things are really hard. And I have watched them, I've studied them, and I'm like, what are they doing that I'm not doing? How are they able to do really hard things, conquer really difficult things, get through really hard things without having a lot of emotional turmoil or without burning out? Like, I used to tend to be like, I'm doing well, crash. I'm doing well, crash. Like, that's okay. It's okay that if you're doing that. And again, I'm gentle. That may be my process. But why are they seeming to be able to maintain themselves? And these are people I know very well, and I've seen their internal process. And a lot of the time is they don't take their emotions as fact. They don't let their emotions stop them from doing what they're doing. They do what they said they were going to do. They do what's on their schedule. They don't do what their emotions are telling them to do. And they definitely don't run away from emotions. They don't run away from doing things the way they planned because of an emotion. And so with this, the reason that this is so important for your recovery is, let's say you have an exposure and response prevention plan, or you have a homework plan for your mental health, or you have a workout plan, or you have a nutritional plan, or a business plan, or a career plan, whatever it might be, you have it and you're committed to sticking with it, and you're committed to feeling whatever feeling shows up radically, right? You're radically saying, I'm committing to not avoiding any of these emotions. I want to get skilled at having them all. That is the true sign of strength, right? Strength is not having these emotions. It's not avoiding them. It's not living a life where you don't have them, because every human being has them, right? Every human being has sadness and guilt and shame and anxiety and anger and all the feelings. These are human. Then what we want to do is, how have we built out a system where we say and we do what we say we're going to do, and we don't run away from emotions, that we commit to kindness every step of the way? Okay? So that's the piece I want you to remember here. Trying to stop your strong emotions is slowing down your recovery. What we want to do, even if you have an anxiety disorder and we're targeting willingly having anxiety, and we're always saying, bring it on, it's a beautiful day to do hard things. That's not just anxiety. That's all the emotions. It's a beautiful day to have anxiety. It's a beautiful day to have sadness. It's a beautiful day to have guilt. It's a beautiful day to experience shame. It's a beautiful day to have anger. None of them are off limits. None of them make you bad. None of them are wrong. And we really want to practice, put in the reps of having these emotions, just like you would at the gym, or just like you would if you were learning to skateboard. My son is learning to skateboard. The coach said, you're going to fall a gazillion times doing this one before you get it right. You better just be ready and keep your elbow guards on. And that's true for us as well. Be prepared to have the feelings, but your metaphorical elbow guards is self-compassion. They will catch you when you fall. And that's all I have to say about that. So I hope that you are committed to this. Practice it. Put in the reps. I promise you, you will not be sorry. Have a wonderful day. And again, today is a beautiful day to do hard things. I'll see you next week.